Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhrueva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiret Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, the time for our yatra to Navadip is coming very close. So, what should be our meditation, our preparation, and what should be the purpose and objective of our Dham Yatra? Or what is the purpose of this human life? Is very precisely explained in various sections of Srimad Bhagavatam. One such section we discussed today in our Bhakti Vaibhav class, and it is so inspiring and it is so important. So I thought that I will discuss with you today. Uh, this is from the fourth canto. I'll share the verse. Dayāśīl, you are hearing?
Yes, Prabhuji, just a minute only.
You should people be prepared at 8:30. I am starting the class. Why your dinner is not done? Dinner should be taken not after 7 or 7:30. This is the whole problem. If you eat late, you sleep late, and you wake up late, and you struggle the entire life to perform your sadhana bhakti. Actually, by 7 o'clock in the morning, 16 hours should be done. That should be the standard if you really want to advance. So many things will come in this section. So this is very, very important. And the gift that we have been given, but how much we are valuing it, how much we are applying it, and how much we are realizing it. This is very important. Okay. So Prithu Maharaj is one of the Saktyavesh avatar. He has a very special potency. What potency he has? Anyone remembers? One moment. Just get on one video. Thank you. Prithu Maharaj has the potency of Palan Shakti. And Prithu Maharaj, he performs a great sacrifice, and even the Supreme Lord appears, and the Supreme Lord gives him the benedictions. And after some time, the four Kumaras, they arrive in his kingdom. And when these Kumaras, they arrive, he gives him such a warm reception, such a warm welcome. He washes their feet and sprinkles the water which has washed their feet on his forehead and on his citizens. And after making them seated, welcoming them with sweet words and proper etiquette and seat, he asked this question. This is a very important question for all of us. I'm picking up from verse number 15. Prithu Maharaj meets with the four Kumaras. So, without wasting time, Prithu Maharaj inquires. He says, Tadham krita vishrambha sruhido vastapasvinam samprikche bhavayite asmin shema kena anjasa bhavet. So Prithu Maharaj says that I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. Sruhido. Tadaham krita vishrambha sruhido vas tapasvinam. So these four sages, they have come to give relief to everyone who is in this blazing fire of material existence. So I therefore ask you, how in this material world? Where are we? We are all in the material world. So therefore I ask you, how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life? Very, very important question. Samprikshe bhave ete asmin. Bhava means in this material world. And how one can have Shema, Shenanjasa Bhavat. Shema means the ultimate benefit or the ultimate goal. Very important question, that one who is entrapped or entangled in this material world, how can he very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life? Please hear the purport. When saintly persons go door to door to see those who are too much materially engaged, it is to be understood that they do not go to ask anything for their personal benefit. It is a fact that saintly persons go to the materialist just to give them real information of the auspiciousness. Maharaj Prithu was assured of this fact. Therefore, instead of wasting time by asking the Kumaras about their welfare, he preferred to inquire from them whether he could soon be relieved from the dangerous position of materialistic existence. This was not, however, a question personally for Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj is a Satyavesh avatar. He is already liberated. He liberates others. It was raised to teach the common man that whenever one meets a great saintly person, one should immediately surrender unto him and inquire about relief from the material pain of existence. This is the first teaching, that if we meet someone, if we get an opportunity to meet some person who is saintly, then we should inquire about relief from material plane of existence. Therefore, Shri Narottam Das Thakur says, Samsara Vishaya Nale Divanishi Hiya Jwale Judite Na Kainu Upay. We are always suffering from material pangs and our hearts are burning. But we cannot find any way out of it. The materialistic person can also be called a tapasvi, which means someone who is always suffering from material pains. This is another understanding. One can get relief, one can get rid of all these material pains only when he takes shelter of the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is also explained by Narottam Das Thakur, Golokera Premadhan Hari Nama Sankirtan, Rati na Janmilo Kenotai. Narottam Das Thakur regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. The conclusion is that all persons in this material world are suffering from material pains. And if one wants to get rid of them, he must associate with saintly person, pure devotees of the Lord, and chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the only auspicious way for materialistic persons. So here we see the very, very pertinent, very important inquiry, the most important inquiry, that those who are in this material world, how can they achieve the ultimate goal of life? This is how Srimad Bhagavatam also begins. That what is the ultimate good for the welfare of all the people. So I'll go a little fast. So I'll hear the answers. The great sage Maitreya continued, thus Sanat Kumar, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Prithu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, very beautiful. How we should speak is mentioned here. That Saram Sushti Mitam Madhu. This is how the speech should be. Saram means something which is very important, substantial. Shushtu means which is very appropriate. And Mita means which is minimal in words. And Madhu means very sweet to hear. Saram Sishtu Mitam Madhu. Very beautiful verse. So the speech of Prithu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. So what Sanat Kumar answers? Sanat Kumar said, "My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you, who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly person. Such intelligence is befitting your position." So I'll go a little more fast forward. He is appreciating. And then he begins to answer the question. It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures after due consideration that the ultimate goal for the welfare of human society is detachment from the bodily conception of life. This is the first answer which the Kumaras gave. The first thing is detachment from the bodily conception of life and increased and steadfast attachment for the Supreme Lord. What is it called? Virakti and Asakti, both. Virakti from where? From the bodily conception of life. And Asakti toward the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental beyond modes of material nature. We hear this so many times. Vikalpaha and Sankalpaha. So, but how to do that? How to be able to be detached from all that which is material and how to be able to get attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the first instruction he gives. He says, Shashradhaya Bhagavad Dharma Charyaya Jigyasaya Adhyatmika Yoga Nishtaya Yogeshwaro Upasanaya Chanityam Punyashrava Kathaya Punayaya Cha. Attachment for the Supreme can be increased by practicing devotional service. Inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, applying Bhakti Yoga in life, worshipping the Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these actions are pious in themselves. So we will discuss it, that what exactly is the prescription and how we can accept and apply in our life. So, the word Yogeshwara is applicable to both the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, Yat Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti Dhva Nitir Matir Mama. This is the final verse in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is known as Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying the word Yogeshwara is applicable to both the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his devotee also. In Bhagavad Gita, this word occurs in two places in the 18th chapter, 18.78, Krishna is described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the master of all mystic powers. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. Yogeshwara is also described at the end of the 6th chapter, 6.47. Yoginamapi sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomata. This yukta tama, the yoginam api sarvesham, the yogi amongst the Yogeshwara means also the topmost among all the yogis. So this yukta tama indicates the topmost of all yogis, the devotee, who can also be called Yogeshwara. In this verse, Yogeshwara Upasana means to render service to a pure devotee. Thus, Narottam Das Thakur says, Shadya Vaishnav Seva Nishtat Paiche Keba. Without serving a pure devotee, one cannot advance in spiritual life. Prahlad Maharaj has also said, Nesham matistva durukamangrihim sparshati anarthopagama yadarthaha mahiyesham padarajobhishekam nishkinchananam navarnitayavat. One should take shelter of a pure devotee who has nothing to do with this material world. Very important. Who is a pure devotee? Who has nothing to do with this material world, but is simply engaged in devotional service. By serving him only, one can transcend the qualitative material condition. So how to get out of this material entanglement or this material bondage is only by serving someone who is pure. In this verse, it is recommended Yogeshwara Upasana. Upasana means worship. Yogeshwara means devotee. That one serves the lotus feet of the topmost yogi or a devotee. So how to serve? To serve the topmost devotee means to hear from him. This is how the service to the topmost devotee is done. To serve the topmost devotee means to hear from him about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To hear the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the mouth of a pure devotee is to acquire pious life. In Bhagavad Gita 7.28, it is also said that without being pious, one cannot engage in devotional service. Yesham tu antvagata papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandamo vinirmukta bhajante mam dridavrata. The most important aspect here is dridavrata. Bhajan, which is dridavrata, and when it is possible, when is antagatam papam. To become fixed in devotional service, one has to be completely cleansed from the contamination of the material modes of nature. For work in devotional service, the first item is Adav Guru Ashrayam. One should accept a bona fide spiritual master, and from the bona fide spiritual master, inquire about one's transcendental occupational duties, Sadharma Priksha, and follow in the footsteps of great saintly persons, devotees like Sadhu Marg Anugamanam. These are the instructions given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. The conclusion is to increase attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to accept a bona fide spiritual master and learn from him the methods of devotional service and hear from him about the transcendental message and glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, one has to increase his conviction about devotional service. Then it will be very easy to increase attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in nutshell, what we see in this verse, what is being recommended is Rogeshwara Upasanam. And how that Upasana begins? The service to the pure devotee is by hearing from him. And what we have to hear? We have to hear about the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as one does that, what develops is attraction for the Supreme Lord develops. And his detachment for the material world also develops. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam. Otherwise, it will never happen. Very important, the main focus of our devotional practice has to be hearing and chanting. Let us see, it will become even more condensed. Further, he says, Atendriya Rama Sagoshtaya Arsnaya Tat Samatanam Aparigrahena Cha Vivikta Ruchiya Paritoshatmani Vinaharer Guna Piyushapanat. Very beautiful verse. Vivikta Ruchiya Paritosha Atmani Vinaharer Guna Piyushapanat. One has to make progress in spiritual life. How? By not associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. This is Pratikulasya Varjanam. Not only such persons, but one who associates with such person should be avoided. Not only such sense gratifiers and those who are interested in money making, they have to be avoided. But any such person who are in touch with such person, they are also to be fully avoided. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are not meant to just have ahar, nidra, maithun. No. Devotee means his ahar is harikatha. One day you don't eat ahar, bhojanam, nothing will happen. But if we don't have harikatha, so Prabhupada, the Supreme Lord is saying that one should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vina harer guna piyushapanat. Vina means without. Hare is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Guna is quality. Piyusha is nectar. And panat is drinking. One can thus be elevated by being disgusted with the taste for sense enjoyment. In the material world, everyone is interested in money and sense gratification. Hear very attentively. The only objective is to earn as much as money as possible and thus utilize it for satisfaction of the senses. Srila Sukadeva Goswami thus described the activities of the materialistic persons. Nidraya hiyate naktam vyavayena chavayava vyavayena chavavaya Divachartheya Rajan Kutumba Bharane Nava. This is a typical example of materialistic person. At night they waste their time by sleeping more than 6 hours. Please hear very attentively. Materialistic person means he is interested in ahar, nidra. So nidra means what? Anyone who is sleeping more than 6 hours. They waste their time by sleeping more than 6 hours. Or by wasting time in sex indulgence. This is nidra also and maithun. This is their occupation at night. And in the morning, they go to their office or business place just to earn money. As soon as there is some money, they become busy in purchasing things for their children and others. Such persons are never interested in understanding the values of life. What is God? What is the individual soul? And what is its relationship with God, etc. Things are degraded to such extent that those who are supposed to be religious are also at the present moment interested only in sense gratification. The number of materialistic persons in this age of Kali has increased more than in any other age. Therefore, persons who are interested in going back home, back to Godhead. Why do we go to Dham? Going to Dham, coming to Dham is expressing an interest to go home back to Godhead. And there are some unfortunate people whose tickets are being made and they are what they are doing, they are cancelling it. What it means? They're, they're getting a ticket to come to the spiritual world and they are still withdrawing. What can be said? Okay. Therefore, persons who are interested in going home back to Godhead should not only engage in the service of the realized soul, but should give up the company of materialistic persons. This is very important. Prabhupada is emphasizing. Only whose aim is to earn money and employ it in sense gratification. Please, asat sang tyag, a Vaishnavachar. The most biggest hurdle in our practice and advancement of sadhana bhakti is asatsang. If we have asatsang, then it is like a child is having insects, what do you say, worms in the abdomen. What happens? If the child which has many worms in the abdomen, he cannot grow, he cannot develop. Why? Because whatever he eats, that is taken by the worms inside the abdomen. So he has to free himself from the infection of these worms which are inside the abdomen. So similarly, those who want to advance in spiritual practice, they have to give up asatsang. It does not mean that you have to break relationship with everyone, but you have to be intelligent, not to associate with them. But I see still, if there is some wedding or something, there is so much attraction to go there. Why? What is the attraction for? Asatsang. This understanding has still not developed. Why we have to go to hometown for 1 week or 10 days? What is the attraction? Asatsang. You're not getting satsang there. That means we are still considering that the asatsangs is more important than the satsanga. That means the person has not got clear conception of the spiritual understanding. He is still unclear about it. Very dangerous. If you are living with those who are non-devotees, their consciousness will cover your Krishna consciousness. So therefore, persons who are interested in going home back to Godhead, others, that means they are not interested. They want to remain in this material world. They are still thinking that this material world is a place of happiness and enjoyment. Should not only engage in the service of realized soul, but should give up the company of materialistic persons whose only aim is to earn money and employ it in sense gratification. They should also not accept the objectives of materialistic persons, namely money and sense gratification. Therefore, it is stated, Bhakti Parishanubhav Viraktir Anyatra Cha. To advance in devotional service, one should be uninterested in the materialistic way of life. This is very important. What the worldly people are doing, we care a damn about it. We have no interest. That is what is the subject matter of satisfaction for the devotees, is of no interest to the non-devotees. What the world is interested in, we are least interested. And what we are interested in, the worldly people have no attraction. Then we are on the right path. What the others are doing, if you are trying to copy them, that means you have still not begun the path of pure devotional service. Simply negation or giving up the company of materialistic person will not do. Prabhupada is further emphasizing. We must have engagements. What engagement? Positive engagement, spiritual engagement. Sometimes it is found that a person interested in spiritual advancement gives up the company of material society and goes to a secluded place, as recommended for yoga especially. This is for jnanis. But that will also not help a person in spiritual advancement. For in many instances, such yogis also fall down. How many? Vishwamitra, Saubari, so many. As far as jnanis are concerned, generally they fall down without taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. The impersonalist or the voidist can simply avoid the positive material association. They cannot remain fixed in transcendent without being engaged in devotional service. Now, okay, so many times we hear we have to be engaged in devotional service. But how? What is the most effective way? Here, this discourse is explaining. The beginning of devotional service is to hear about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is recommended in this verse, Vina Harer Guna Piyush Panat. One must drink the nectar of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this means that one must always be engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. It is the prime method for advancing in spiritual life. Nothing else will work. Everything else is a farce. Your life will go waste. Your effort will go waste. Again, I am repeating. This means that one must be always engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. It is the prime method for advancing in spiritual life. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommends this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If one wants to make advancement in spiritual life, by great fortune, he may meet a bona fide spiritual master and from him learn about Krishna. Very clear. By serving both the spiritual master and Krishna, he gets the seed of devotional service. Bhakti Lata Bij. So many times we have heard, Brahmand Brahmite, Kauno Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna, Kripa Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. Okay, Bhakti Lata Bij has come. Then what? And if he sows the seed within his heart and waters it by hearing and chanting, so that Bhakti Lata Bij, how it will grow? When it is watered. And what is the process of watering? Is Shravanam and Kirtanam. It grows into a luxuriant Bhakti Lata or Bhakti Creeper. So if this process of hearing and chanting is not prominent, Bhakti Lata will not sprout. Although one has got a bija, but bija will not become germinated. It will not sprout. The creeper is so strong if there is proper Shravanam and Kirtanam. The creeper is so strong that it penetrates the covering of the universe and reaches the spiritual world and continues to grow on and on until it reaches and takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Just as an ordinary creeper also grows on and on until it takes a solid shelter on the roof. Then it very steadily grows and produces the required fruit. What is the fruit now here of the Bhakti Lata Bij? If it is advancing nicely, if it is reaching its destination, it will bear some fruits. The real cause of growing of such fruit, which is here called the nectar of hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the fruit, that you develop taste in the process of hearing and chanting. And if there is no taste and there is no desire to hear and chant, that means Bhakti Lata has not fructified. It has not started to grow. So, the nectar of hearing the glories of Supreme Personality is to water the creeper of devotional service by hearing and chanting. The purport is that one cannot live outside the society of devotees. Like a fish. If a fish is outside the water, it cannot be at any comfort. You cannot keep the fish out of water and place it in the AC. This is very nice air-conditioned room. The fish will be very, very uncomfortable. Or you give him champagne to drink. Forget water, take champagne. So the purport is that one cannot live outside the society of devotees. One must live in the association of devotees. And which kind of devotees? Where there is constant chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord. And Prabhupada pours his mission. He says, the Krishna conscious movement is started for this purpose. So that hundreds of ISKCON centers may give people a chance to hear and chant. Each of your house should become a center and engage in this activity. Prabhupada is saying, for this purpose, Krishna consciousness movement is started, so that hundreds of ISKCON centers may give people a chance to hear and chant, to accept the spiritual master and to dissociate themselves from persons who are materially interested. For in this way, one can make solid advancement in going back home, back to Godhead. This is what it means that one is a candidate or one is eligible to return to the spiritual world. When in this way he is molding his life. Very beautiful verse that it says, Vina harer guna piyush panat. One cannot sustain, one cannot remain without the nectar of the Hari Katha. Further, even more deeper. Ahimsaya paramhamsya smartya mukunda charitagrasidhuna yamera kame niyameschapi anindaya nirihaya dvandva titikshaya cha. Further instruction, a candidate for spiritual advancement, where to return home back to Godhead, must be non-violent. Ahimsaya. Must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas. Paramhamsaya charyaya. Must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Smartaya. Must follow the regulative principles. Very important. Must follow the regulative principles without material desires. And while following the regulative principles, should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. He should learn to tolerate them. I was so much enlivened to hear this discourse today. So Krishna, in the form of his representative as the four Kumaras, who are the acharyas for which sampradaya? The four Kumaras are the four Kumara sampradayas, Nimbarkacharya. So here the acharyas are themselves, the personalities are themselves giving this discourse. The devotees are actually saintly person or sadhus. The first qualification of a sadhu or devotee is ahimsa or non-violence. Person interested in the path of devotional service or in going back home, back to Godhead, must first practice ahimsa or non-violence. Please understand, Prabhupada gives a comprehensive view of what is ahimsa. A sadhu is described as titikshava karunika. A devotee should be tolerant and should be very much compassionate towards others. For example, if he suffers personal injury, he should tolerate it. But if someone else suffers injury, the devotee need not tolerate it. The whole world is full of violence, and a devotee's first business is to stop this violence, including the unnecessary slaughter of animals. A devotee is the friend not only of human society but of all living entities, for he sees all living entities as son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devotee means he sees everyone as the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what are other religion teaching? They're not religion. What are they? That they are only the sons of the Supreme Lord. And what are the others? What they say others are kafir. What understanding they have about religion? Or what understanding they have about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His creation? Complete farce. They are not religion. They are actually terrors. They are organizations of terror. They have no understanding of what religion is. He does not claim himself to be the only son of God and allow all others to be killed. This is what we see the Islamists. They're not Islamists actually. They are radical elements. They are asurs, thinking that they have no soul. This kind of philosophy is never advocated by a pure devotee of the Lord. Surhida sarvadehina. A true devotee is the friend of all living entities. Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita to be the father of all species of living entities. Consequently, the devotee of Krishna is always a friend of all. This is called ahimsa. Such non-violence can be practiced only when we follow the footsteps of great acharyas. Therefore, according to our Vaishnava philosophy, we have to follow the great acharyas of the four sampradayas or disciplic succession. Trying to advance in spiritual life outside the disciplic succession is simply ludicrous. मतलब क्या है? This is a joke. It is said, therefore, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who follows the disciplic succession of acharyas knows things as they are. Chandogya Upanishad, Tad Vijnanartham Saguru Meva Bhigachet. In order to understand the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master. The word smritya is very important in spiritual life. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. What Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. So how to do that? How one can come to always remember Krishna? We fail to even remember Krishna once in a day. So how to come to the position of remembering Krishna always? Life should be molded in such a way that one cannot remain alone without thinking of Krishna. We should live in Krishna, so that while eating, sleeping, walking and working, we remain only in Krishna. And again, Prabhupada says, our Krishna conscious society recommends that we arrange our living so that we can remember Krishna. In our ISKCON society, the devotees, while engaged in making spiritual sky incense, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. Matajis, when you are preparing prasad, when you are doing household chores, why you are not hearing? What is the difficulty? The only difficulty is that there is no taste. You are not Hari Guna Katha Panat. That we have to develop. See, Prabhupada is saying, so this is the early time of our society. There was no Lakshmi. So that at that time, the full-time devotees, they were making incense, agarbatti. और वो बना के बेचते थे. So Prabhupada is saying that in our ISKCON society, the devotees, while engaged in making spiritual sky incense, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. The Shastras recommend Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Lord Vishnu should be remembered always, constantly. Vismartavyo na jatu chit. Vishnu should never be forgotten. That is the spiritual way of life, Smritya. This remembrance of the Lord can be continued if we hear about him constantly. If we are hearing, that means we are remembering. If we are chanting, that means we are remembering with attention. It is therefore recommended in this verse, Mukunda Chirta Greha Sidhuna. Sidhu means nectar. To hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or simply authentic literature is to live in Krishna consciousness. Very, very important declaration by Srila Prabhupada. To hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or similar authentic literature is to live in Krishna consciousness. Such concentration in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by persons who are strictly following the rules and regulative principles, not otherwise. How attention can come in hearing? Anyone remembers? Who can hear with rapt attention? One who is pure in his mind and intelligence. How one can be pure in his mind and intelligence? One who is performing his activities purely. How one can be pure in performing his activities? One who has completely followed the regulative principles. So unless and until one has strictly followed the rules and regulations, he cannot be in the path of bhakti. To the extent you are strictly following rules and regulation, the ultimate success can be achieved. It is just in due course of time. It will automatically come. Shanvatam Shraddhaya Nityam Granatasta Swacheshita Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. You all memorize this verse? We have recommended in our Krishna consciousness movement that a devotee chant 16 rounds on beads daily and follow the regulative principles. That will help the devotee be fixed in his spiritual advancement of life. It is stated in this verse that one can advance by controlling the senses, yame. By controlling the senses, one can become a Swami or Goswami. One who is therefore enjoying his super title, Swami or Goswami, must be very strict in controlling his senses. Indeed, he must be master of his senses. This is possible when one does not desire any material sense gratification. If by chance the senses want to work independently, he must control them. If we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling the senses is automatically achieved. Another important point mentioned in this connection is anindaya. We should not criticize others' methods of religion. There are different types of religious systems operating under different qualities of material nature. Those operating in the modes of ignorance and passion cannot be as perfect as that system in the mode of goodness. In Bhagavad Gita, everything has been divided into three qualitative subdivisions. Therefore, religious systems are similarly categorized. When people are mostly under the modes of passion and ignorance, the system of religion will be of the same quality. A devotee, instead of criticizing such systems, will encourage the followers to stick to their principles so that gradually they can come on the platform of religion in goodness. Simply by criticizing them, a devotee's mind will be agitated. Thus, a devotee should tolerate and learn to stop agitation. Very important. We should not just criticize, we should try to help them. Another feature of the devotee is nirihaya. Nirihaya means simple living. Niriha means gentle, meek, or simple. A devotee should not live very gorgeously and imitate a materialistic person. Plain living and high thinking are recommended for a devotee. He should accept only as so much as he needs to keep the material body fit for the execution of devotional service. He should not eat or sleep more than is required. Simply eating for living and not living for eating, and sleeping only 6 or 7 hours a day are principles to be followed by the devotees. As long as the body is there, it is subjected to the influence of climatic changes, disease, and natural disturbances. The threefold miseries of material existence, we cannot avoid them. Sometimes we receive letters from neophyte devotees questioning why they have fallen sick, although pursuing Krishna consciousness. This is early days. So Prabhupada is writing what he was experiencing. They should learn from this verse that they have to become tolerant. Dvanda titikshaya. This is the world of duality. One should not think that because he has fallen sick, he has fallen from Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness can continue without impediment from any materialistic opposition. Lord Sri Krishna therefore advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tam titikshasva bharata. My dear Arjuna, please try to tolerate all these disturbances. Be fixed in your Krishna conscious activities. There is further also, but the main thing I have already spoken. I'll just read the next translation. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like ornamental decoration on the ears of the devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse is especially mentioned to substantiate the devotional process of hearing the subject matter. A devotee does not like to hear anything other than subject dealing with spiritual activities or the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can increase our propensity for devotional service by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from realized soul. The more we hear from realized soul, the more we make advancement in our devotional life. The more we advance in devotional life, the more we become detached from material world. The more we become detached from the material world, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more we increase in attachment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee who actually wants to make progress in devotional service and go back home, back to Godhead, must lose interest in sense enjoyment and associating with persons who are after money and sense gratification. This is the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nishkinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajanunumukh निष्किंचनस्य भगवद् भजन उन्मुखस्य पारं पारं जिग्मिषुर्भवसागरस्य संदर्शनं विषयिणाम् अथो योषितं च हा हन्त हन्त विषभक्षणन्तो अपि असाधु. The word Brahmini used in this verse is commented upon by the impersonalist or professional reciters of Bhagavatam, who are mainly advocates of the caste system by demonic birthright. They say that Brahmani means the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot conclude this with a reference to the context of the word bhaktya and kunabhidhanena. According to the impersonalists, there are no transcendental qualities in the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, we should understand that Brahmani means in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as admitted by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, wherever the word Brahma is used, it must be referred to Krishna, not to the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwaniti Shabdite. Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagwan can be all taken in total as Brahman. But when there is a reference to the word Bhakti or remembrance, so this indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not the impersonal Brahman. Very beautiful, very, very beautiful. So then it talks about Rati. Rati means intense attachment. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you that the purpose of the yatra is, it is like a rehearsal of returning home back to Godhead. And who is eligible? One who has developed taste in the process of hearing and chanting. And what we should be doing in the Dham, we should be focusing on these two activities. Nothing else. Everything else can be minimized. And this can be maximized. If one does that, he is already in Dham. After leaving this body, he will not return to this material world. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. Dayāśīl, okay. Why you were where somewhere out?
नहीं प्रभु जी, रूम पे हूँ प्रभु जी।
रम्या नहीं सुन रही है?
हेल्थ ठीक नहीं होता, सुन लेते हैं।
अरे सुनोगे तो हेल्थ ठीक हो जाएगी यार। इससे इंपॉर्टेंट और क्या है? कब हम इस बात को समझेंगे? Anyway, I have done my part. I was so highly inspired. The process that we have been gifted, this is the most valuable and most potent. But still everyone will not subscribe. Because still the spiritual conception has not been germinated. But try. To give, very important is to give up the association of materialistic persons. And please focus. पुरुषोत्तम, कल आप क्लास सुन रहे थे भगवत गीता का?
यस वो
थोड़ा लेट आए होंगे आप।
हाँ, लेट 15 मिनट लेट।
अब आप सीख लीजिए क्या बताया जा रहा है और हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, किसके पीछे भाग रहे हैं। अरे लक्ष्मी अपने आप आएगी अगर नारायण है तो, और अगर नारायण नहीं है तो लक्ष्मी नहीं रहेगी, वो चली जाएगी, वो जो मर्जी कर ले। ये बात समझ में कब तक आएगी, पता नहीं कितने जन्म लगेंगे। ओके, श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tomorrow I would like to continue with Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me continue the second canto completed. We have 3 days. Tomorrow is what? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have 3 days, no? I'll try to complete that chapter in 3 days. So that at least second canto is complete. And when we come back from Mayapur, then we begin the third canto. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari.